You think you know these bands. You've heard the hits 1,000 times. But what you haven't seen is what happened when the lights went down. The real moments. The ones that never made the magazines. Some of these photos were buried for decades, and the stories behind them, they're the ones the history books left out. The original Allman Brothers Band, 1970. This was the legendary lineup that invented Southern rock. The twin lead guitars of Duane Allman and Dickie Betts, locked in with two drummers, created a sound that was revolutionary, powerful, and purely American. Two counterculture legends. Neil Young with Dennis Hopper on the set of Hopper's bizarre film, The Last Movie. Fresh off the success of Easy Rider, Hopper's follow-up was a famously troubled production and a colossal flop that nearly ended his directing career. A young Johnny Cash in the late 50s. The ornate, custom-inlaid Gibson was a symbol of his rising stardom. But the true man in black always preferred his tough, plain Martin guitars, a working man's tool for a working man's music. A classic portrait of the Doors at their peak. But the tension in this photo is real. An exhausted Jim Morrison arrived hours late to the photo shoot, frustrating the rest of the band. A perfect snapshot of a brilliant band beginning to fracture. Two old friends at a party in '75. This was aboard the Queen Mary cruise ship, a massive star-studded bash to celebrate the new Wings album, Venus and Mars. It was a clear sign that Paul McCartney was once again on top of the music world. Van Morrison, 1973. The Caledonia Soul Orchestra behind him. This tour became It's Too Late to Stop Now, one of the greatest live albums ever made. No overdubs, no fixes. What you hear is what happened. Van in full flight, band locked in. Magic. The innovator meets his inspiration. Eddie Van Halen and Brian May, 1980. Both men built their own guitars and created revolutionary sounds. It was a summit of two self-made geniuses who completely rewrote the rules of rock guitar. Jimi Hendrix at Monterey Pop, 1967. This wasn't just a gimmick. It was a declaration of war on the state of rock and roll. The showmanship grabbed America's attention, and the revolutionary music he played that day changed everything. The Allman Brothers Band in 1975. They were still one of the biggest bands in the country, but they were falling apart. This photo captures the fractured lineup just before their first major breakup, the end of a legendary chapter in Southern rock. A young Ozzy Osbourne in 1970, the year Black Sabbath invented heavy metal. Before this, he was a former slaughterhouse worker who placed a newspaper ad reading, "Ozzy Zig needs gig," a humble start for the future Prince of Darkness. A lean, hungry Led Zeppelin in 1969. Before the stadiums and the superstar myth, this was the reality. A raw, powerful blues rock band that conquered the world one club at a time with sheer, unstoppable musical force. The Rolling Stones, 1968. Jumpin' Jack Flash video shoot, and they're playing cricket in war paint. After the psychedelic detour, this was the comeback. Raw, nasty, back to basics. And even goofing around, they look like the coolest guys on the planet. They called her the Queen of Rockabilly, and by 58, she was a powerhouse. Few people know it was her old boyfriend, Elvis Presley, who encouraged her to trade her country sound for the raw energy of rock and roll. Boston's debut album was one of the biggest in history, but it was largely a deception. The record was almost entirely recorded by one man, the genius guitarist Tom Scholz, who spent years perfecting it alone in his basement studio. The Pirate King. On stage, Keith Richards kept a bottle of Jack Daniels nearby, and his signature drink was a mix of vodka and orange soda he called nuclear waste. It became part of the mythology of the most notorious tour in rock history. Bruce Springsteen, 1978. This photo perfectly captured the mood of darkness on the edge of town. After a 3-year legal battle, the romantic kid from Born to Run was gone, replaced by a tougher, more world-weary storyteller. The Ox and the Loon, 1967. While John Entwistle was the quiet one on stage, offstage, he was Keith Moon's main partner in crime. Together, they were the A-Team of Hotel Destruction, leaving a trail of mayhem across the globe. Supertramp, 1977. Roger Hodgson and Rick Davies, 2 writers, 2 styles, constant tension. But that friction made the songs work. They're in the middle of Breakfast in America. Didn't know yet it would be their biggest record ever. Two generations of metal. Backstage at the historic Moscow Music Peace Festival. This was the first major rock show in the Soviet Union. For legions of young Russian kids, this was their very first taste of live Western heavy metal. The Smiths in 1983, the year they started a revolution. The brilliant once-in-a-generation partnership of Morrissey and Johnny Marr was a total rejection of 80s pop. This was the quiet, poetic beginning of a musical uprising. This is Lemmy in 1973, the bassist for space rock band Hawkwind. He was fired 2 years later after getting into trouble on the Canadian border. On the plane ride home, he furiously wrote the song Motorhead, the blueprint for his legendary new band. Pearl Jam, live in 1993. They were one of the biggest bands in the world, and they hated it. Their legendary, furious live shows became their primary weapon in a full-scale war against the corporate music industry. The Rolling Stones in 1966, the year of aftermath. They were at their creative peak, with Brian Jones adding exotic textures to their sound. This photo captures a brilliant, fleeting moment, just before the band's internal dynamics would change forever. A rare moment of rest for the Experience. While they looked like a band of brothers, the non-stop touring and Jimmy's studio perfectionism were tearing them apart. The party was almost over for the original, legendary power trio. Three legends of British rock. This was taken during the filming of the Mark Bolan movie, Born to Boogie, directed by Ringo Starr himself. Ringo made the film to capture his friend at his peak, and this jam with Elton was a highlight.